All right, so you're out there in rural Ontario maybe and
Yeah.
thinking, internet access, not so great.
Yeah, it's a real problem for a lot of folks.
Big problem. Well, we are diving deep today into Ontario's ambitious plan to get everyone connected.
That's right, they're going all in.
And get this, it involves partnering with a certain tech CEO who just might be launching rockets.
You talking about Elon Musk and SpaceX?
You know it. We're talking Starlink.
Pretty fascinating stuff, using satellites to beam internet down from space.
Ontario's really putting their money where their mouth is on this one.
Absolutely, $100 million deal with SpaceX to be exact.
$100 million, that's serious commitment. What's the goal with that investment?
Well, the plan is to use Starlink to connect 15,000 premises across rural and northern Ontario.
Premises, okay, so we're talking homes, businesses.
Exactly. Community centers, you name it. If it needs internet, they want to hook it up.
15,000, that's a lot. So why the focus on these more remote areas?
It's all about bridging the digital divide.
Right.
In this day and age, internet access, it's not a luxury anymore.
It really isn't.
It's a necessity, and these communities, they've been left behind for too long.
Struggling with slow internet limited access?
Or no access at all. Think about what that means for students trying to do their homework.
Yeah, can't download those big files for school.
Or a doctor in a remote community trying to consult with a specialist in a big city. It's a game changer when you have reliable internet.
Totally. And it's not just about getting connected. It's about getting connected with high-speed internet.
That's a crucial point. We're talking about the kind of speeds that let you stream movies, have video calls, even game online.
Stuff that a lot of people in cities just take for granted.
Yeah, exactly. And now those same opportunities are opening up for people in rural Ontario.
I remember reading a story about Pikangikum First Nation getting online super fast with Starlink.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example. They got connected just 15 minutes after the Starlink equipment arrived.
15 minutes, that's crazy fast.
It is, and it really highlights one of the big advantages of this technology. It's all about speed of installation. No need to lay down miles of fiber optic cable.
Especially in those remote areas where the terrain can be tough.
Absolutely, it makes things a lot easier.
So, okay, for those of us who aren't exactly rocket scientists, how does this Starlink thing actually work?
Well, it's actually pretty clever. SpaceX keeps launching these batches of 40 satellites into low Earth orbit.
40 at a time, wow.
Yeah, every week they're adding more and more, creating this huge constellation of satellites that constantly orbits the Earth.
So it's like a giant internet network in space.
Exactly. And because these satellites are in low Earth orbit, they're much closer to the ground than traditional satellites.
Which means faster speeds.
You got it much faster.
So I understand the province is covering the equipment and installation costs. But what about the monthly fees for using Starlink?
That's right. The monthly fees will be the responsibility of the user, but it's important to remember this Starlink deal. It's just one part of a much bigger plan.
Okay, so there's more going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ontario has committed a whopping $4 billion to bring high-speed internet to the entire province.
$4 billion, that's massive. What are they doing with all that money?
Well, so far they've already invested $2.5 billion in 270 projects all across Ontario.
So this has been going on for a while.
It has, and those projects have already connected over 100,000 people.
That's incredible. And they're not stopping there, are they?
Nope, they're aiming to connect another 450,000 people, so they're really going big on this.
So it's not all just Starlink, right? Are they using other technologies too?
They are. It's a multi-pronged approach. They're using fiber optic networks in some areas, fixed wireless in others.
And even mobile wireless, I bet.
You bet. They're looking at every option and choosing the best solution for each specific area.
It's like a tailored approach to internet access.
Exactly. So like in densely populated areas, fiber optic cables are usually the best option, super high speeds and lots of capacity.
Makes sense. But in those more sparsely populated areas where it's hard to lay cable, that's where Starlink shines, right?
Exactly. Satellite internet can be way more cost-effective and efficient in those situations.
This all sounds really promising, but what would you say are the biggest benefits for Ontario as a whole from all of this investment?
It's about so much more than just getting people online. It's about creating a more equitable society.
So it's a social issue too.
It really is. Because internet access is key to so many things nowadays. Education, healthcare, economic opportunities, you name it.
And it helps people in rural areas stay connected with the rest of the world.
Absolutely prevents them from being isolated. And, if we zoom out even further.
Zoom out, how do you mean?
Well, think about it. What Ontario is doing, it's part of a global trend. Satellite internet is becoming increasingly important for connecting underserved areas all over the world.
It's like a global solution to a global problem.
Exactly. It's exciting to see.
So it sounds like Ontario is making huge strides in getting everyone connected. Is satellite internet the silver bullet, though?
That's a good question. There are definitely still challenges to consider.
Like what kind of challenges?
Well, affordability is a big one, making sure that everyone can actually afford these services.
Right, because even if it's available and people can't pay for it, it's not really a solution.
Exactly. And then there's the question of data caps and speeds.
Yeah,
Ensuring that people in rural areas are getting the same quality service as people in cities.
makes sense. So there's still work to be done.
There is, but it's definitely a step in the right
A
direction.
giant leap, even, and it sounds like. What do you think the long-term impact of all this will be on life in rural Ontario?
Well, I think it has the potential to be truly transformative. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine a future where location is no longer a barrier to opportunity.
Yeah, where everyone has access to the same resources,
Mm.
regardless of where they live.
Exactly. Businesses could thrive, remote work would become more viable, education and healthcare would be more accessible. It could really revitalize rural communities.
It's a really exciting prospect. Lots to think about, for sure. Thanks for breaking all this down.
My pleasure.
I think we'll leave our listeners with that thought. So, is satellite internet the ultimate answer?
Mm.
What do you think? How will all of this change life in rural Ontario? Share your thoughts in the comments.
We'd love to hear them.
And that's a wrap for our deep dive into Ontario's ambitious plan to connect every corner of the province. Thanks for listening.